Happy Monday. Okay, so I am going to use my Demi Colour, and I wanted to show you guys it. Now, this is the Giant Artist palette. I do not expect you, if you wanted to try this out, to get this one. This is for everybody, all skin tones. And I know, like, you look at it and you're like, all of that looks like eyeshadow and blush, and there's no skin colors in there. This is a totally new, innovative, never been seen before in the history of makeup. Completely different way to approach makeup. People that are familiar with the color wheel, so maybe hairstylist, artist, may pick this up a little bit easier. They'll understand it a little bit easier, but it's based on color science, and it is meant to diminish the distractions that you see on your face. So they're going to be a little bit different every day. Like today I'm looking at my face and I totally see that I'm really red right here in the corner of my eye. I definitely have some red and purple and stuff going on. But here's how we're going to start with this. Because it can be overwhelming because it's just so different, we are going to pick out 3 distractions, only 3 things on our face. So the biggest 3 things that are bothering you, and it may be different every day. Now, like I said, I do not expect you to start out with this giant palette if you were curious about this. They have some really great sets already available. There's like 12 colors that are specific to your skin tone. So I would be in the light. So I would be in an artist, an edit, or it's called like a bright would be what that's the name of the palette. I would be bright 1. Okay. If you're any darker than me, if you have any more color than I do, you'd be in the dark 2, which is a good range of medium colors, and then darker skin tones. So maybe if you have some, a lot more gold in your skin, you'd be in the Artist Edit 3 or the Bright 3 set. It'll make a little bit more sense once we start using it, but I want to kind of keep showing you this because it's kind of crazy how it works. The very first thing that I'm looking at, let's just say this red dot on my eye just is like glaring to me today. So let's get rid of that. The thing with Demi Colour is you're going to be applying the opposite, pretty much the opposite color of what you see. You're going to try to remove the excess color. So with that being said, I mean, there's an excess of red there. But I also want to get up really close. I have a mirror right here. So I'm going to get up really close and make sure that it's red that I'm seeing and not blue or purple. Most things that you think are red usually have a lot of blue in them. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot more kind of bluish purple. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to take a brush, and whatever size I'm trying to cover, that's the size of the brush that we'll use. They have different ones. So this is a tiny, tiny one. This is probably something I'm going to use on that dot right there. But since this spot's a little bit bigger, I can get away with using this brush. And you are barely going to tap into the color. So I'm going to look at it, and I'm thinking it's reddish purple, and the opposite of that would be like green yellow. So I am going to grab a little bit of a green yellow, and I'm barely tapping into it. It's the tiniest bit, and you're only going to touch color to color. So you're only going to put it exactly where that color is distracting. And you should not see any makeup. You shouldn't see any color when you put it on there. Basically, you're just going to diminish what you have, and you know if you have the right color if it took it away without looking like there's any texture or any makeup there, which I don't see. So I think we picked the right color. So we're just going to start with the darkest areas. Now that I got rid of that one, I'm like, you know what? I've got a blemish here. A lot of people are going to focus on under their eyes, but always start with your darkest areas first. So now I really see this one. And this one is really dark. Let me see if I can. I'm sitting in front of a window because natural light is the best, but I also have some little ring lights here to help. So that one is really, really dark. It's almost blue. It's so dark. And the opposite of blue is orange. So I'm going to grab another brush, and I'm just going to grab this tiny one because that's the size of that. And I'm going to dab into orange. And I'm just going to tap it. And I probably got way too much, so I'll just pat it with my finger. This is definitely a learning process. Okay, so now I can tell it's definitely a piece of dry skin, but it looks kind of, it looks almost brighter than it did. So that means that I needed to go with a darker orange, which I have in here. So let me just do this. Let me grab a tiny bit of moisturizer so I can wipe that off. And then we're just going to leave it alone for a second, because when you're touching your face like this, you're bringing blood to your skin. And so it gets red again. So let's just hop over on this side. This one isn't as dark over here, so that orange is going to work perfectly. It's definitely a learning curve. I don't want you guys to think you're just going to get this and it's going to be like instantly you're going to know what to do. But the more you do it, the more you'll get used to it, and it will just become second nature. The learning curve is not putting makeup everywhere and just getting used to touching a little area and diminishing that. Now, this isn't going to look like makeup. You should never see it. You should never see texture. It's going to last all day, but it really just kind of perfects your skin and it diminishes distractions. And the cool thing about diminishing just a couple of little distractions is that you'll be surprised at how just diminishing one little thing can make everything else around it look better. So you won't be putting this on very much of your skin at all. It's just tiny little dots. Okay, I'm going to go back to that one, and I'm going to do a little bit darker. Let me see what I've got here. Because I think that color I used was just a little too light. Okay, that one looks better because I don't really see it. So I just did it on the very darkest dot, and then around it is actually a little bit lighter. So I'm going to grab that lighter color that I started out with, and we're going to kind of put that around. And it really is just the tiniest touch and go. Okay, much better, right? So I'm a little bit red all in here, so I'm just going to take a little bit bigger side, and I'm just going to kind of get rid of that. My nose is always red. So this is kind of a learning process, though. It's not going to come naturally, probably, to most people. All right, the next thing I'm looking at, we'll say that this is going to be my third thing, is right here. And I definitely have more under this eye than I do this side, but we're going to do both eyes. So I'm going to get up real close and I'm going to look, and this is the darkest area, and it's just a tiny little area, but I definitely see some bluish, purplish there. So the opposite of blue is orange, the opposite of purple is yellow. So I'm going to grab a little bit of a yellow orange, and I'm just going to touch it right on that area. I'm not like going all around. You can dab it with your finger if you want to blend it. And then I see a little bit right there. But most of the time, you shouldn't have to really blend it. I honestly am just still getting the hang of using the tiniest bit. But look at, isn't that neat? And then, since we're on my eyes, I feel like right here looks kind of Looks a little muddy. It has like a brownish, greenish color to it. If you have freckles, it's probably this kind of color too. I can take a little bit bigger brush. That one might be too big. Let's do this one. And I'm going to use a little bit of the opposite of green is red. So let's use a little bit of a pinky, like a red orange. And see how we can brighten that little area up. There, yes. And it's not always the same on both sides either. But in that case, that made a nice difference. Now when I'm looking, I see a little bit of destruction in here. I definitely see a little bit of green in here. I'm going to use that same color and just put the tiniest bit right here. Can you see? But what's so neat is when you get up close, you shouldn't be able to see any makeup. And it will stay all day because you're using the tiniest, tiniest, tiniest bit. All right, let's do some right in here. Right? Don't you feel like I'm a little bit dark there? And again, I feel like that's a little bit greenish, mulchy color. So I'm going to use a red orange. And just tap right there. And it just brightens everything up. Isn't that cool? Okay, so I said 3 things. I mean, that looks pretty darn good. I feel like I look a lot brighter. What's funny about this makeup is when you go from, as you're doing it, you don't realize a difference. Unless you took a before picture, which I forgot to do, but you don't really notice a difference until you go back. So it never looks like makeup. It just looks like your skin is perfect. All right, so I'm feeling like I've got a lot of bluish purple here. So I'm going to use a little bit of a, well, let me see, bluish, so orange, purple, yellow. So let's use a little bit, let's try a little bit of just yellow and see what we get. Just to diminish the purpley out of it. Yep, that looks brighter. You know when you get the right color because it just disappears. When you don't have the right color, you'll still see something. You'll still see texture. But this is definitely something that I'm still learning. I'm still getting used to. But it's really fun. And once you figure it out, it's only going to take a couple minutes. You're literally just going to dab a couple spots and you're going to be like, okay, I'm done. So I'm just using the brightening colors now. And that's where you could start with a bright edit and try that out. And of course, everything has a 30-day money back guarantee and a 60-day exchange. So you're never stuck with anything. I'm looking right here and I feel like I'm a little bit, let me get up close and look. I feel like I definitely can see a little bit of pinkish purple right here. So let's use a little bit of a green yellow and just kind of put some right there just to brighten that up. And then right below that here, I see more greenish. So I'm going to use a little bit more pink or red because that's the opposite of green. There. So down here, I feel like I'm quite purpley blue. So what's the opposite of purple? Yellow. The opposite of blue is orange. So yeah, let's use a little bit of yellow orange. And just kind of clean up that line right there. Oh, I got way too much there because you could see it. There we go. Just kind of brightens things up. Should we mess with this one? This one's really red. It's getting better every day though. But there's definitely a little spot right in the middle. It's darker. It's almost a blue. So we're going to put orange there. Just a tiny dot. And then I've got more reddish. So the opposite of red is green. Let's try just green and see. Yeah, that one's really close. So that one almost got rid of it. This one feels a little bit brownish. See where right there it's kind of faded, it's almost gone. So it's a little bit brownish greenish. So we'll use a little bit of orange. Wait, sorry, I take that back. We're going to use a little bit of red orange. All right, that one disappeared. Now I see little ones. I mean, I could keep going on and on forever, but those are probably, you'll get used to seeing colors better, but those are probably a little bit reddish, purpley, so we can use a yellow green here. And it's just like you dot and go. You try to leave that area, because the more you dot on it, the more blood you're going to bring to the surface. All right. I'm feeling pretty good about that. A little bit here. It's looking a little bit greenish, brownish. It's easy to dot too much because it's so little that you need. So if you start with the darkest distraction, then you can just kind of go back and do one color at a time. Anyway, that's kind of the gist of it. It's definitely a learning process. Takes a little bit of time and effort, but once you get it, I'm going to put a little bit, I don't want to totally diminish this. I kind of like it being a little bit darker under my eye, but I'm just going to take a little bit of a green yellow to kind of counteract that purpley red a little bit. And it's just the tiniest bit. And this may not be for you. If you love your 3D foundation, don't worry, it's not going anywhere. You're gonna still be able to use it. We're not taking it away. But this is just kind of a neat thing if you like that natural look. I'm gonna stop this, I'm gonna hop back on, and I'm gonna show you a little bit of sculpt, which is basically adding some contour and cheek colors we can add too. So I will be right back.